Hi guys, I know it's been a while since I've made a video, but I'm back. I just wanted to make a video to talk to you guys a little bit about my journey with weight loss surgery. It's been a long time. I had my surgery about 1.5 years ago, but I haven't felt really comfortable making a video and telling you guys how everything went until now. And since now we're all in quarantine together, I have a lot of time, so I figured I would make the video and talk to you guys. So first thing is first, my journey with my sleeve is a bit different than everybody else. So these videos are going to be set in two parts. The first part is going to be the surgery and whatever went on after that and before that. And the second part is going to be the weight loss. So first part, disclaimer guys, I don't want to scare anybody, and I'm okay. I'm okay now. I'm healthy. I'm good. So there's nothing to be scared about, but I did go through a lot of complications, which I will get into right now. Day of the surgery, July 12th, 2018. I was terrified. First of all, before that day, I've been on a liquid diet for about 2 weeks, so I did not eat anything. I was really good with my liquid diet, no cheating, nothing. I really did it like on the spot. It was like 4 shakes. I was on Optifast, so I had 4 shakes a day, and I was allowed to have like a cup of vegetables. So I did. It was really good. Didn't eat anything. Followed it to the letter, to the T. And then the day of the surgery, I was really nervous because it was my first surgery and never been under the knife. So obviously you're gonna be nervous. Got to the hospital, it was about 7 a.m. Everything went well. They gave me a sedative because I was panicking because like I'm going under, so I'm panicking. The thing that scared me the most was the anesthesia. I don't know why I had like this unusual fear of the anesthesia. I was so scared that I wasn't gonna like wake up, and it ended up actually being the best part of it. So we go into surgery, and surgery went well. It was 3 hours. They removed a big part of my stomach and everything. I get out of surgery. I'm okay. I feel good. I'm a little bit drowsy, obviously, because after the surgery, you're only allowed to drink a little bit of water. And I was in the ICU, so, but no fever, nothing. I felt okay. The day after, they removed me from the ICU and put me back into the regular rooms, and I felt good. Still no fever, nothing. They took my temperature every hour and a half. Everything was good. And the day after that, I left the hospital. It was Saturday. So I left the hospital. Mind you that the hospital that I did my surgery at is 4 hours away from where I live. So, but it's an hour away from where my brother lives. So I told my mom, I'm like, well, we're not gonna go back home. We're just gonna go to my brother's house, and we're gonna spend the night, or at least 2 nights over there, just in case. That way we're close to the hospital. Went home. That night I was feeling a little bit chilly, but I was sleeping in the basement, so I figured it was like only because I was sleeping in the basement that I felt chilly. Didn't think anything of it. I took a Tylenol and I went to bed. I didn't have any pain in my stomach. No, nothing. I was literally just chilly. That's it. So then woke up in the morning. Decided to take my temperature because I felt a little bit hot. So my mom was like, yeah, we're gonna take your temperature. I took my temperature, it was 38. And then, well, I wasn't worried because in the booklet that they gave us, it said 38.5 to 39, you have to go to the hospital. So I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna wait it out and we'll see if it goes down, if it goes up, we'll see what happens. And that evening, my temperature went up to 40. That's when I started to get a little bit worried, right? And my mom was like, okay, we're going back to the hospital. We went back to the hospital. I was in bad shape. I was like feverish, and I started to get at that point I started to get some pain in my stomach. So literally I went to the emergency room. They got me in as soon as, like, didn't even wait at all. They just got me in there. They gave me some sedatives. They did some scans to see if there was a leak in my sleeve. The radiologist saw a very, very small leak in the sleeve, and he saw a huge golf ball size. It was like a golf ball size. It was like full of liquid and bad stuff. So it was an infection, clearly, that was in my stomach. So it was an abscess. Like, the infection formed an abscess. So the doctor, the surgeon that was there, she's like, we have to go in and drain the abscess. I'm like, okay. But they didn't tell me at that point that the radiologist saw a little leak. They didn't tell me any of that. But when she went in, she's like, it's going to be an hour surgery. It's nothing. You'll be good. Don't worry about it. Because I was panicking, because I'm like, another surgery. What's going on? What is going on right now? And then she's like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's going to be an hour surgery. We're going to drain the abscess, give you some antibiotics. You'll be good. But that's done. Whatever. So I'm like, okay. And then they got me in there. And instead of it being an hour surgery, it turned out to be a 3-hour surgery. So there was a pretty big abscess over there. They drained the abscess. When they took me back out, I was a little bit drowsy, didn't know much of what was going on. I figured, I'll just sleep, and then in the morning everything will be okay, and I'll go back home. The morning I wake up, I still have a fever. And then they put me on antibiotics, and they're like, it might take some time for the antibiotics to start working. So we're just going to leave you in the ICU in the meantime. Like, okay. Then the next day, I'm still having a fever. It's not working. Clearly, there's something wrong. They changed the antibiotics. They're like, okay, we're gonna try to leave you on those antibiotics for about 3 days, because sometimes it can take up to 3 days. I'm like, okay, but we're not gonna leave you in the ICU. We're gonna put you back in the regular rooms. I'm like, okay, great, back in the regular rooms. We get back in the regular rooms. They start giving me like antibiotics through the IV. And then I start feeling like really like pain in my stomach. So they're like, okay, there's something going on there. So they did another scan. They didn't see the leak. I'm like, okay. And then they tell me, they're like, we thought there might be a leak, but when the surgeon went in for the second surgery to drain the abscess, she didn't see the leak. So we think it was just a glitch on it was just a glitch. It's like the radiologist was wrong. There's no leak. They did the second scan. They didn't see any leak either. So they're like, yeah, for sure there's no leak. I'm like, great, perfect, because that's the worst thing that could happen, apparently, having a leak. And then I'm like, okay, well, we're just gonna wait until the antibiotics kick in, and we'll see what happens. 3 days after that, still getting a fever of 41, still having bad stomach pain. I'm literally getting injected every 3 hours with morphine just to like keep me sleeping. So I'm like, okay, there's something going on. They do some blood tests. They figure now I have an infection in my blood. I have an infection in my pee. And they're like stunned because they don't know what's going on, because they keep switching antibiotics and nothing's working. So I'm like, okay, well, there's obviously something wrong. Please somebody figure it out. Mind you, they've been doing that surgery for a year and they haven't had any complications. And guess who happens to be the first complication? This girl. Yeah, I'm the first complication. So they're scrambling to figure out what's going on. They're changing me antibiotics from antibiotics, going back and forth. And then I start like noticing, they're telling me, okay, you have to walk a little bit every day. You have to walk as much as possible. I'm like, okay. I start walking, and like at first it was okay. I could walk. It was normal. But then I start noticing like I'm having more and more trouble walking and breathing. And I have the machine that I need to like breathe in and out of it so that the little thing goes up and keep it up and then go down, to like train my lungs, because after surgery your lungs take a huge hit. So but I'm like noticing that my lungs are getting worse and worse. So I literally tell them, I'm like, well, there's something wrong with my lungs because they're getting worse and worse. So then she's like, oh, okay, we're going to do a scan in your lungs. But it might be two things. It might be water in your lungs, or it might be like blood in your lungs. And that's bad, because once that little drop of blood goes to your brain, you can literally have a stroke while you're dying, while you're sleeping. Like and you're dead. So then my mom got really scared, and obviously I got really scared, but trying not to think about it, like trying to be like, okay, no, it's just water, it's water, you know. And then it turned out it was water. The next day she comes back, she's like, yeah, it's water in your lungs. You have about 60% in your left lung and 20% in your right lung. And I'm like, okay, well, at least it's not like dangerous. She's like, no, but guess what, girl? We have to remove it. We have to remove that water. I swear to you guys, that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Like, that was painful. Like, no, that was bad. Because they literally numb your back, and they put the huge syringe in your back, and they start removing the water. It feels like you're having a heart attack. Literally. Like, it feels like you're having a heart attack. Like, it goes like, I don't know, it's just so painful. Like, I don't even want to think about it. It's so painful. It's really, really painful. It hurts. Anyways, we removed the water out of the lungs, and then we switch up antibiotics again, because the ones that I was on, again, wasn't working. And my fever started going down a bit to 38 and like 38.5. And then it would go down to 38, then go back to 38.5. It was like, you know, so they were a little bit optimist. They were like, oh yeah, but probably those meds just need time to work, but it's going to work. I'm like, okay, great. But then like that night, my fever literally jumped during the day from 38 to 41. I had about 5 nurses in my face all night, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., putting water on my head, trying to like get my fever down. They called my mom, they called my surgeon to come in, emergency, come in. Something's going on. They didn't know what was going on. I was throwing up. I fainted at one point. It was bad. And then the surgeon came in, they did more tests, and then, you know, they saw that my blood infection got worse and whatever. And then they're like, okay, well, there's definitely something else going on. So then they were like, they kept on doing like blood tests to see every day to see like if the infection would go down, how's my fever, and that. 3 weeks in the hospital, guys. 3 weeks in the hospital. And I was literally, mind you, the hospital that I went to is only old people over there. Like, it was old people. Like, I was the only like young one over there. Like, nobody, I could speak to nobody. And my mom would come every day, but then like there would be nobody to talk to. Like, and thank God for technology and for the phone, because I would have went crazy at that point. 3 weeks into the hospital, and mind you, during that whole time, they would feed me. They would give me yogurt. They would give me like mushy stuff for me to eat. And when they did the second surgery, I'll show you guys. When they did the second surgery, they put in a drain into my stomach. So here's my stomach right there. Let me show you. I don't know if you guys can see it. They put a drain right there in my stomach, and that would drain the bad liquid. But at some point, I'm eating yogurt, and I'm like, well, I can see something like pink coming out like in the drain. Is that normal? Like, cause the yogurt is pink, and I'm like, that, pretty sure that's not normal, right? So I tell my doctor, I'm like, yo, like I ate and like literally I saw it come out of there. So there is a leak. Like, check it again. There is a leak. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe they're like, we'll do another scan just to be sure, but I don't think it was a leak. Honestly, we would have seen it before, like we would have seen it on the second scan, but we'll check just to be sure. But honestly, just to tell you, the worst thing that could happen is for it to be a leak. I'm like, okay, thank you, but do another scan, please. Did the other scan, and finally they saw the leak. And the reason why they didn't see it in the second scan, and they saw it in the first one, is because the leak is microscopically small. Like, it's small. You can't. There's no way that the surgeon could have saw it when she opened me up for the second time. No way. So that's when shit gets worse. They're like, okay, well, Rana, I'm sorry to tell you, you can't eat anymore. Like, yeah, you did the surgery to lose weight, and I'm sorry to tell you that you can't eat anymore for the next couple of weeks. But also, to top it all off, you can't lose any weight because we need you to gain weight for your body to fight off the infections. And to top it all off, how are we going to make sure that you're not going to eat anything or drink anything? By the way, no water, nothing. We're going to put a tube that goes from your nose to your intestines, and you're going to be fed by machine from 7 p.m. to 11 a.m. every day. And that liquid is very high in calorie, so you're probably going to gain weight, which is the opposite of why you did the surgery, to lose weight, right? And to top that off, you can't drink water. Even the water has to be like in a syringe that they put in your tube. And if your mouth is dry, you have to like put a sponge in the water and just suck on the sponge a little bit for your mouth to get like watery. Great. I'm like, how long is this going to be for? Oh, we don't know. It could be like 2 weeks. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. It could be 2. We don't know. It's just a chance. I'm like, oh shit, okay. That's when I cried. In 3 weeks in the hospital, I did not cry, but when they told me that, I cried, because that means you have to put your life on hold for a while. So they put the tube in, they put the feeding machine, and they sent me home with all of that. Well, they monitored me for 2 days to see if my fever would go down, and it did, because I stopped eating. So there stopped being like bad liquid in my stomach, so the infection wasn't being fed, it was being like downgraded. So they sent me home with the machine and the tubes and everything, and I had to come back a little bit later. I went home for about a month, and then I went back to the hospital to see if the leak was closed. When I went to the hospital, they tried to feed me yogurt, and turns out it wasn't closed. So I ended up with a very bad throat infection. I've never had a throat infection this bad. It was very, very bad. Ended up with a 41 fever. They couldn't let me leave the hospital. I stayed for about a week and a half in the hospital. And then they sent me back home. And then I stayed on the liquid, the machine was feeding me for about 2 other months. And then went back to another hospital, because at that point I was fed up with the hospital that did my first surgery. So in my mind, I'm like, they didn't handle the whole situation very well. I do understand that it was their first complication that they've ever had, but it wasn't handled that well. For me, it wasn't handled very well. So I asked to get transferred to another hospital. Went to the other hospital. First thing that she did, she gave me some juice. She's like, all right, well, drink that juice. I drank the juice, and it didn't come out in my drain. So she's like, that's good. So she removed the feeding tube. Then she told me to go back home, but she didn't remove the drain. She told me to go back home for about 2 weeks, like I could start eating. But she skipped, like, usually when you get the sleeve surgery, it's liquids, then it's puree, and then it's solids. But she didn't want me to go do those steps, because my stomach had been without any food for so long. She was afraid that I would get stomach paralysis. So we went straight to solids, and I didn't get any fevers, nothing. I was eating solid food. Like, I didn't have the typical menu for the sleeve surgery patient. At that point, what scared me the most was that I wouldn't be able to lose as much weight, because we were going straight to solids, and because, I couldn't lose any weight for the first couple of months after my surgery. So I was kind of worried about that. Went back to the hospital. There was no fever, nothing. She removed the drain. Everything was good. She told me, you know what, go on your diet, like proteins, low carbs, try not to eat any sugar, but you can. The thing with my second hospital, the surgeon that checked up on me, she was very loose with the diet. Like, she wasn't putting me on a strict diet. She didn't want me to deprive myself of anything. she would tell me literally focus on the proteins, have your snacks, like your regular snacks, but have your healthy snacks. Low carbs, low sugar, more protein. And if you want to eat sugar, eat it, but don't eat it every day. That's what she would tell me. So it would be like, it was fantastic. And went back the second time. In 3 months, I had already lost 80 pounds. That's why I went back the second time. She's like, usually the appointments go 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So I went back the second time, and she was like, you know what? You're on track. You lost 80 pounds, which is way more than the usual sleeve surgery in that span of time. So I was like, great, you know? And then she's like, I want to see you in a year. And that's when I was like confused, because I'm like, okay, well, there's no like, I wanted to be on a regular, like, I want to see her regularly, but she's like, there's no need for that. And I was kind of confused on my vitamins, because there was no, because of the switch of the hospitals and everything that happened, there was no clear path for me to go on the vitamins. So I did my blood test in March, last March, not last March, but the one before that. And I came up low in iron, and I came up low in vitamin C also, and vitamin D. So I'm like, well, nobody like told me, like I was taking vitamins, but I wasn't taking like the vitamins at the hospital, like, because the hospital did not tell me which vitamins to take. So I'm like, I'm going to take multivitamins and that will be good. But then when that came up, and she called in and she's like, I'm going to send you a prescription for iron and vitamin C. I want you to take these vitamins. I'm like, okay. So I took them. I was supposed to see my surgeon again this year, like it was at the end of March, but then with the coronavirus and us being all in quarantine, this fabulous thing that's happening, I can't. So unfortunately, I'm pretty much off of my diet right now. But I really want to get back into my diet, because like I have still a couple of pounds that I want to lose, and like I want to get back on straight to it. I did not gain any weight, which is pretty good. And as far as my whole diet goes and how much weight I've lost, I will have a part 2 for this to get into those details. But I just wanted to explain to you guys what happened regarding my complications and everything. I don't want to scare you guys, however, because honestly, having the sleeve surgery is the best thing that could have ever done for myself. It's the best thing. And thinking back about it right now, and okay, if I'm honest with you guys, I'm somebody that has a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety, like a lot. Like, ask my family, everybody knows that I have a lot of anxiety. But I think it got rid of a lot of my anxiety, because the worst thing that can happen to a person is think that they're gonna die, or like be close to dying. And I feel like I was very close to dying. And if you ask my doctors, I was very close to dying. And if you ask my mom and everybody that was around me, I was very close to dying. So that's the worst thing that can happen to somebody. And I faced that. I faced it right on, and I got through it, and I'm still here. And honestly, during my whole stay in the hospital, I was pretty positive. Yeah, I had some down times. I had like some bad times. Like I could attest to sometimes where I called my family and I was crying on the phone, where I called my boyfriend where I was crying on the phone. I did, but all in all, I was positive and I had like a good mindset. So for me, it's like, if you can get through something like that, you can get through anything. And like, your anxieties, they should all go away, because, well, not all go away. Part of your anxieties should go away, because you've been through something very traumatic and you got through it. So there's nothing to be scared about going forward, you know? And right now, with everything that's going on with the coronavirus and us being in quarantine, and us being away from the people that we love, and everybody together being so stressed about what's going to happen, how are things going to unfold, I feel like me having been through what I've been through, it's prepared me for this. Because for the month that I was in the hospital, I didn't have any connection with people other than the phone, and other than my mom that would come like every day. She was there. Thank God for my mom. And my boyfriend that came to visit me, and my whole family that was supporting me and that was loving me, and my brother that gave me literally like opened his home to me. Thank God for all of those people. But literally what I'm trying to get at here is that I was kind of in my own quarantine. And even when I got back home, I couldn't really go out or see anybody because I was attached to a machine and I was weak and I was tired and I was, you know, it wasn't a good time. But it kind of prepared me for what's going on right now in the coronavirus. And regarding my weight loss, as I said before, I will be making a second video to tell you guys what happened and how I'm doing and how much weight I've lost and how everything is going. That video will probably come out next week though, so tune in for that. And lastly, I'd just like to say to everybody that's going through a tough time right now, to everybody that's going through the surgery, that wants to do the surgery, please, like, don't let this video discourage you or scare you. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to tell you guys that even though you could get complications, there are less than 5% chances of you getting complications. In a year of them doing that surgery, I was the first complication that they've had. When I went to the other hospital, when I switched my hospitals, the surgeon, she told me, we've never seen a leak in 15 years. We've been doing this surgery for 15 years and there was no leak. We've never seen a leak. So I was really an exception to the rule. And honestly, if it does happen, God forbid, if it does happen, you're going to be okay. And you're not going to regret your decision. And you're going to get through it. So thank you all for tuning into this video. Stay tuned next week for the video about the weight loss. Thank you.